Just to give a little bit of background about me, I have been in the business, it'll be 20 years in June. Started out at Rector Hayden Realtors in Lexington, more traditional broker kind of setup, and then joined Keller Williams 8 years ago because nobody can say no to Dana, as we all know. So then I partnered with a company called Place that is a platform for the top 1% of teams and individual agents across the country. And what's so amazing about and I'm so sorry, I don't know how to shut that off. Let me see if I shut my my email down, guys, really fast so you don't have to listen to that. Well, I don't think that's gonna work. We'll just have some dings, sorry.
Okay, I don't think we can see the waiting room, or I can't on my end.
Oh, you can't? Okay, that's no big deal. It's um guys, I'm having a hard time today. Just bear with me. Nikki Trahan entered. Okay. All right. Goodness gracious, guys. I promise I'm more organized than this. Hey, Nikki. Okay. Here we go again. And right. Guys, I mean, what is happening on my laptop here? Okay, there we go. All right. So this profile, when you look at this came from Place addressing or looking at every single one of their teams across the country. So this is the profile of the 10 most profitable teams based on the year 2023. And then, as it says here, the amounts shown are averages per team. So for those of you that don't know, I took screenshots of this from a Zoom that I watched. So you're going to see the person talking that was talking at the time in that corner there. But so what you're seeing here is the most profitable teams did 111 units, 50.7 million in volume, 1.4 million in GCI. They had an average sales price of 457,000. They had 10 agents on the team. Their gross profit percentage was 49%. Their total expenses were 18%, and then their net ordinary income was 31%. And then this one shows here the time with Place was 1 to 7 years. So the average commission rates that were received with all these teams was 2.76. So when you look at this, we're going to talk about where you should be focusing your efforts as far as your expenses and the most important thing. So this is like the top team actuals. Cost of sale was 52%. And again, I'll get into more detail on this. Total expenses at 19%. And then NOI of 29% with these expense thresholds. So property direct, 2%, total advertising, 3%, staffing at 8%, occupancy, like your rents and things like that for your office space, 1%, and then other administrative type fees and such was at 5%. So we've already talked about this. Oh, and I will show you this. So on the flip side of that, when you see the most profitable teams, the ones that were the least profitable had 41% gross profit and 55% total expenses. So their net ordinary loss was 15%, and you don't want to be there. So this is what I love that they shared with us. So when we talk about the most profitable teams, these are the 15 things that they looked at to see what these teams were doing. So for example, the most profitable teams are prospecting and or sphere-based, 100% of them. Does that make sense? Does everybody follow my math on that? Like 100% of the teams, these top 10 teams, are prospecting and or sphere-based. So they're not spending a ton of money on leads. Not to say that they aren't spending money on leads, but all of it is coming from their prospecting activities because there's almost zero cost for that. Then the next thing that they have is the operator is in production. So whether you call yourself an operator, a rainmaker, whatever your position is on the team as the owner of the team, 100% of the top 10 teams had their operator in production. And that can be with as few as 2 transactions a month. So it keeps stability for the team if you're at least doing, as the operator, 2 transactions a month. Now, one thing we're going to get into is how you pay your agents. So of these top 10 teams, 100% of them pay 50% or less to the agents. Okay, so when you talk about commission splits, 50% or less go to the agents. So the next thing is 100% of them do not pay staff bonuses on a per closing basis. So if you have an admin and you tell that admin that I'm going to bonus you for every closing, that is not the best thing to do. The best thing to do is to use benchmarks of when you get to a certain production, when you get to a certain income amount, but you're not doing it based on per closing basis. The next thing is 100% of them do not do brand marketing. Andrew just had a heart attack. So they do not actually focus on brand marketing. Their marketing is based on, well, and Andrew, I think you would agree with this because a lot of your marketing is based on just listed, just sold. It's all about marketing your listings. So don't think about it of spending a bunch of money on just the Matty Oak group at Keller Williams. You're marketing your actual listings to be successful. They do not pay for physical staging. 100% of these teams do not pay for staging for their clients. They tell their clients where they can get physical staging. You know, virtual staging is a different matter, but actual physical staging, paying someone to go in there and stage the property, is 100% paid for. That is paid for by the seller, not the agent. They spend 100% of them spend less than 3% of their total GCI on outside referral commissions. So if you're Dave Ramsey or you're using all the, the sites that will send us free leads, but then they want 35, 40% of the commission, they are spending less than 3% of their total GCI on outside referral commissions. The next thing is they do not use ISAs. So inside sales agents, it is very difficult to hire an ISA that it sticks with you and that does the things that you want them to do. So they are using the agents to do basically the ISA work, which is what they should be doing anyway. They should be prospecting. Now, in our case, we do have a financial consultant through place that we get every month. So 90% of the teams are using that, oh gosh, what's the perk or opportunity? So at minimum, you should be looking at your financials every single month, and you should know exactly what your numbers are. These top 10 teams have 2 or fewer non-VA employees. So in other words, virtual assistants. On my team now, we've gone down to 1. And that's just my operations manager, and she actually handles transaction management as well. They rent offices from their brokers. 70% of the agents or these teams rent space from their broker. They don't go to big MAO offices, mega agent offices where they're separate, because there's a lot of expense involved with that. Here's a very interesting number. 70% of these top profitable teams charge a buyer and or seller transaction fee. And those range from, let me see here, $400 to $1,100 per transaction that is paid for by the buyer seller. So that's, with the commission crunch and all the things that we've got going on, that may be something that you might want to consider. When they go into appointment lead commission splits, the splits are different. And we're going to talk about this in detail more when we get into it. But 50% of the teams, when an appointment is just given to an agent, for example, hey, this is my past client, I want you to go list their house. That is an appointment transaction. And the agent is paid 30%, and the team picks up the rest of the expense. And then it just gets into these 10% and 10%, but it's to have a second location and have a team cap, but those are not necessary. The most important ones that you're going to see here are going to be the prospecting, sphere-based kind of thing, the operator in production, and how they're managing their expenses. So what I really want to focus on here is when you add agents to your team, because obviously the only way to increase your revenue is to either you sell more houses or you recruit more agents to sell more houses. So for example, this one is average sales price of 400,000, commission percentage of 2.75. The agent split is 50%. And then this one, the agent units, average agent units was 10. So at 5 agents, if you'll look here, the total GCI is $45,000. The cost of sale is $22,917, which is what you're splitting with the agent. So your gross profit before expenses is $22,917. So when you continue, if you'll look here, if this is 5 agents here in January, if you were to add an agent and an agent and an agent and grow your business, when you get to the end of the year, and this may be unrealistic, let's stop kind of right here. Let's go with 7. So it's 7 agents. If you, oops, hold on. With 7 agents, your GCI bumps up to $73,000. And so now you're at $36,667 gross profit. Does that all make sense to everybody? If you have questions, just holler at me so I can answer them. Now, this is what I want to share with you. So this is when you are growing your team. So for example, this is a base case over here. So let's just say that your total GCI is $1 million for your team. Your commission splits at 60%. So that means that you have an expense of, so you're paying out 60% of your commission. Then you have another, cost of goods sold, which could be referral fees, different things like that. So your total is 620,000. Then when you take out your operating expenses and things like that, you're at 130,000. Now look at this. Look at what happens when you get your commission split with your agents to 50%. You grow by 10% in net ordinary income. So now instead of $130,000, the net ordinary income bumps up to $230,000 just by adjusting this down so that your average payout is 50%. Any questions on that? Okay. Now for teams that have adopted an appointment split, even if it's just a percent difference, it adds another $15,000 to your bottom line. And then the other thing that you want to see that's super important here, this is a benchmark from, through Place is a 25% operating expense budget. I mean, you should not be above 25%. I run my team right now at about 19%. Any questions on this page? Okay. So this is a little bit more of a breakdown on how the commission splits can affect your bottom line. So for example, here, if you're a 50% split, your net ordinary income based on 12 units, 2.5% commission, $400,000 sales price. Your GCI is 120. You're paying out $60,000 to the agents. Then you're showing your expenses here of 25%. So your NOI, your net operating income ends up at $30,000. So right at 25%. The goal for Place is a little bit higher on that. But when you go to a 60% split to your agents, look how you're down here at a net operating NOI percentage at 15%. And this is very hard to make, to have a business to run on. So when you go to a 70% split, you're at 5%. If you're at an 80% split, you're at negative 5%. If you're at a 90% split, you're at a negative 15%. So you can see that it's huge how you have to do splits in order to run a profitable business. So any questions on the importance of commission splits? Because I will show you. These are our approved commission splits with place. This is an expectation of place on our team that the normal transaction is 50%, the appointment buyer is at 65%, and the appointment seller is at 70%. Now, I will tell you this, I am not here on my team, and nor do I plan to go there, which is, even if their appointment buyer right now, they're at 50%. So that means if I'm just giving them a buyer and saying, hey, this person called me, go sell them a house, I'm still treating that at 50%. Appointment seller is 70%. So in other words, this is what is coming to the team. Does that make sense, guys? Because, and I guess I kind of said that wrong, because this is what percentage is coming to the company. So 65% on the buyer appointment. So mine is still at 50, and I don't plan to make that change to that. But always what we're required to do is it's 50% to the team. Okay. And again, this is just another example of what we've already talked about. When your commission is base case is at 60% versus the 50, I mean, you're talking about that incremental step of getting you all the way up by $100,000 just by addressing your commission split up here. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting thing here that I want to share with you guys, which is, should you buy leads? Well, I can't answer that for you individually, but, or I mean, I could help you individually with that, look at your leads. But if you have a database that's so big, for example, our database is up to 13,000 people, and our database turnover rate, which means that it should take how much time it's going to take you to call through every single person in that database, whether it's past clients, whether it's leads that you've bought, whether it's organic that you've gotten through Facebook ads, or, you know, anything like that. You're building that database, but you should have a turnover rate. That means you're going to call them below 3 months. If you're above 3 months, you should not be buying leads, because you haven't even tapped into the potential of what your database is. So if you're consistently hitting that number, then you should definitely consider buying leads. Now, we have we use a program called Brivity for our CRM, and it's probably the most robust, amazing thing I've ever done. And I don't know enough about Command to share with you guys, but we have a status that we assign our leads to based on when we've talked to them. So watch and nurture scores are above 80%. So that means that if we have 80% of our people on watch or nurture status, that means that somebody watch is they're going to buy in, I think it's 3 to 6 months, and nurture is they're going to buy right around a year. So if we've talked to enough people in the database that now we have 80% of these people at this watch or nurture status, that also means that we might consider buying leads at that point. And then these scores aren't going to make much sense to you guys, but one thing you should consider, if you're using your market reports, I don't know what Command calls them. Rebecca, what does Command call? Like when you send market reports that show what somebody's house might be worth?
I have no idea. I don't use Command.
Oh, okay. No worries.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. So we have the ability, and I think we do also through Command. I just haven't paid much attention to it, but through Brivity, we can, you know, if we have somebody's email address and we have their home address, we can go in there and create a market report. And that means that they're going to get however often, once a month. I think mine are set up for twice a month, but they're going to get a twice a month market report in their current home, which will tell them what's happening in the neighborhood around them. And I think they're like neighborhood watch or something like that. Seems like.
Got it. It's neighborhood nurture.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have actually used those before. They're pretty good.
So if you have people in there, and this is where they're talking about a score over 90%, for us, that means that if you have folks that are getting those and you are able to track, because we can see who opened those, and if they've opened them and you have called them, then you should be calling 90% of those people. I mean, that should be your score, is a benchmark is 90%. So if you're not doing that and you're not reaching out to those people that are opening that market report and reviewing it, then you probably have an opportunity there to follow through with those folks. Transaction coordination. The best practice is at this level, until you get to about 130 transactions, your operations manager should be able to handle your transaction coordination. Now, that is because we have, and you can do it through command, I'm sure there's all the plans and such. We have auto plans that are based on when a listing goes live, here's what happens. And it sends all the reminders and it auto emails information to our clients, things like that. So a lot of stuff for us has been automated, which has been key. So it's kind of like a plug and play. You go in, you set up your contract dates, you set up your inspection period dates, it emails you, texts you, whatever you want it to do to let you know that your inspection period is almost over, or, things like that. So be careful with hiring a transaction coordinator before you need them. So a lot of high volume teams have transitioned their work to to VAs, to virtual assistants. So we decided to not use ours anymore because we aren't at the production level that we have been. So that's the operations manager's taking that over. Okay, these are things to consider doing without. So with some of these, y'all are going to be like, what? Company vehicle? Never even thought about that. I love when people say, oh, did Rector Hayden give you a car? I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Expenses to do without, things that you should consider. Staging, company vehicles, print advertising, except for postcards. VAs, you don't have to pay attention to that. You all don't have to be with Place or anything, but they do have great VAs. It's called Brivity VA, and they're very familiar with a lot of them will be familiar with Command as well. So those are opportunities. I do not agree with outside coaching, because I've been paying a coach. Dana Gentry's husband is my coach and has been my coach for 4 years. I will never give him up until he gives me up. So that's an expense that I like. Headhunter fees, personal development courses, I don't agree with that either. You do not pay your agent's dues and MLS fees. Those are covered by them. Rental cars when Uber will work. These are things when you go on trips and things like that. Accounting fees, social media management, don't pay an agency to do that. Keep your Zoom at the free 40 minutes. I mean, there's all kinds of little things that you can do. Keep your closing gifts under $50. And then if do not do the per unit bonus structure for staff. That should be based on the benchmarks like we talked about. So these are some things about the employee bonuses. Dues, use a bonus when it would be motivating. Base the bonus on team benchmarks. Keep it simple and easy to understand, and keep it achievable. And then, like I said over here, don't pay on per transaction basis. And then don't make total expected comp above market, because that's what's going to happen is if you bonus so much that you will get their base pay or their pay at the end of the year way above what the market pay, it should be. You should be paying based on market. So this is super important in our little world on a team. You'll see here, this is the kind of the sphere thing or the circle thing that we use. The agents are expected to do this half of the wheel. The business is expected to do this half. Okay. So sphere is up to them to be making calls. Open houses are an expectation, and prospecting is an expectation. So that prospecting can be for us, the leads that we have in our system. So they have certain requirements to get in every day and make phone calls and reach out to people. Then on this side, the business is to generate for them internet leads, listing leads. And this ISA and other, like I said, we're not really doing this. We had an ISA and it did not work. It was not great. So we use a lot of automation within our Brivity platform, which would be the same thing with Command. We use a lot of that automation to follow up with leads. We have AI. I think Command now has that AI option. So these are things that we use to give out business on this side. So it's really is kind of a 1-for-1 is the goal to get to. The agent does one, you give them one. From an operator's perspective, from your all's perspective, make sure that you really truly know what your financials are. There's a lot of agents that don't use profit and loss. They don't track anything. They couldn't tell you diddly squat. The best thing I ever did was hire a bookkeeper, and she set up my financial reports based on the MREA book and the expenses in there and some of those guidelines. And every month I got financials. She was able to get into my credit card statement. She was able to get into my bank account, and she tracked everything. She created a true profit and loss for me, so I could really assess where things are. So then this is the other thing that you want to do as the team operator is close 2 transactions per month, recruit 2 agents per month, and develop the top 20% on your team. So guys, you can have 10 agents and only 2 of them are going to be your top 20%. It's not to say that you don't grow these other people, but your focus should be on growing the ones that are performing, and you are helping them develop into a listing or selling machine. Set team standards for financial compliance. I mean, that just means what their expectations are as contributions to the team, so hold them accountable to it. And then implement internal controls, whether that's, again, you looking at your numbers every single month, what your expectations are for your team, and then shoot for a goal of a 25% minimum NOI. That should be a benchmark for you to use. If you do hire an ISA, this is kind of the benchmark for hiring an inside sales agent that makes phone calls for you. And that is, if they don't have a base salary and here's the thing, you're going to have to get them licensed. 15% goes to the ISA, 35% goes to the agent, and 50% to the team if you go this route. If they have a base salary, then they get 5%, and then 35% to the agent and 60% to the team. I'm not a big fan of that ISA, so I don't really focus on it. Those are kind of the highlights that I wanted to go over with you all, and I'll take any questions that you have, because I know I threw a lot of information at you pretty quickly there with the benchmarking and things like that. But I can promise you that if you have questions about the expenses and all that, I'll do my darndest to answer your questions. I know y'all got questions. Is it just overwhelming? Too much information?
So down in our area, down here in Southern Kentucky, we do not have a lot of teams that are based here. And so what I'm finding is being able to show the value of a team, especially from just starting, versus, if someone wanted to join a team coming up to the market center and joining a established team. So what is your tips and tricks to really get a team started from the ground level and to be able to recruit those people in?
Well, first of all, your production is going to have to be at a level that, and I think you told me you have more business. I think you and Rebecca shared with me both that you had so much business that you were having a hard time keeping up with it. But consider that your first hire should be an admin. So whether that's a virtual assistant, whether that's somebody in-house. Now for me, I did do something that worked really well, and she was kind of an anomaly, and Stephanie can attest to this. She's on here now. My very first assistant was also a licensed agent, and she was great at operations and checking boxes and doing all that stuff. So she helped with that, but she also did my buyers. Now on my team, we don't differentiate between a buyer's agent and a listing agent. Now, if they're a brand new agent, they're not going to get a ton of listings right off. They're going to have to go through the process and those kinds of things. But Andrew, I think the most important thing for you is if you hire an admin to take off all this stuff that you shouldn't really be doing, because you should be focusing on lead generation, going on appointments, and writing offers. And outside of that, if you're not doing that, you're just distracting yourself with all the other stuff. You know, you should have somebody that's filling out those, sending stuff to your lenders, doing the attorney sheets that you always have to fill out and all that stuff, tracking down receipts from your clients for repairs that they've done. When you find a good assistant and you trust them, and I know agents are like, I'm a control freak, I can't give anything up. I'm just telling you right now, if you have the right person, you will be amazed at what this will do for your business and what it will do for you, because you're no longer, you know, working your butt off all day long. And then now it's, you know, 6 o'clock at night and you found out that you've got 16 emails to reply to all these lenders and attorneys and everybody that wants all your attention that you couldn't give during the day because you were showing houses. So that first hire really should be an admin. And Andrew, what you're going to do is you're going to build the value. And if you sat down and said, okay, for example, obviously all the expenses are paid for by the team. So the only thing that the agent is responsible for is their own gas, their own car, their own cell phone, their board dues, their office fee, and E&O and license fees. Outside of that, the team pays for everything. The team pays for signs, lock boxes, marketing, assistant, you know, they pay for everything. That agent shouldn't really have to come out of pocket. Now, the only thing on our team that we haven't done is found a really good branded closing gift that everybody can agree upon. So they buy their own closing gifts because they're not branded. And they do buy their own closing gifts. So, Andrew, does that help at all?
That does, yes. So
Well,
I already have an admin, but
okay.
I think for me it's now getting into I guess a second hire of an actual agent. So
Okay.
specifically a buyer's agent. That is the seems to be I'd already hired one that wasn't the right fit,
Mhm.
and so now, you know, I'm back to the drawing board looking again for another one, and I'm kind of just to the point that I think I'm gonna have to get a brand new person in, because any other established agent is doesn't really have the mindset to give up any of their commission. I guess they're not seeing the big picture, or maybe I'm not articulating it the correct way.
Well, and one thing, if you went to that agent and said, okay, share with me, you know, what you truly take home in pay after all of your expenses. Okay. And so if they are honest and they really look at the numbers and they look at their split to their broker, if they're, especially if they're at a traditional broker, you know, they're paying a lot of money for that. If they're with KW, they're obviously their commission, I'm sorry, their cap is cut in half when they join the team. Obviously they're giving up half their commission, but I think if you sat down, because one of the things that I did, and I learned this from somebody else at KW in, oh, sorry guys, hold on. My phone, y'all just disappeared on me. If you sat down and line itemed everything that you provide, for example, whatever that is, let's say that it's per transaction, what it roughly costs, $300 a transaction for your admin to handle the transaction side of things. If you went in and said, okay, you have to buy this number of lock boxes, you have to buy this number of signs, you have to do this, if you go down and spell all of that out, you will be shocked at how much money adds up. So for example, if somebody sold, I think we did it at 24 units on my team, and they tried to recreate what I have created, it would cost them $120,000 a year. So when you show them and you go to them and you say, okay, what did you truly take home after you paid your splits and after you paid for all these other things? I think that they would be surprised at that number if they were being honest. Because you're right, Andrew, in absence of value, it's about price, right? In absence of value, it's about the commission split. You know, I can tell you that the people that have joined my team, I've heard, that seems fair. That seems fair. Okay, that's great. I really haven't had a ton of backlash on that. Now, I will say I do have several that are newer and they were looking for guidance and mentorship. And I think that's the part that they really miss out on, is if they don't truly understand being like attached to your hip. For example, Heather, when she worked with me, when she started with me, she went everywhere with me, everywhere. You cannot put a dollar amount on the training and the learning that they're going to receive from you. And so there's that intangible piece that I also include on that spreadsheet. And it's like, and then you get one-on-one coaching, and then you get I mean, you're basically with this person all the time and growing them. So I think you have to really look. And Andrew, if you'll remind me, I'll try to find that spreadsheet and send it to you so you can recreate it, because it's very eye-opening. If you think about, if you provide folders at closing, if you provide whatever you provide, there's so much stuff. I mean, if you have branded note cards that you send thank you notes, or you do anything, if you're sending just listed, just sold, they're not thinking about all these expenses that really truly add up to running a real estate business, because now you're taking that off of them, and you're also taking off of them things that's not as tangible, which is their time back, because now you have an admin doing the transaction piece for them. So that's a really big deal, because if they don't have that administrative stuff that they have to do, they're back to focusing on lead generating, showing houses, and writing contracts, writing offers.
That makes total sense. And so I guess last question that I have is, at what level do you think hiring in a buyer's agent is a smart move, whether that is a number of transactions or an overall sales volume number?
I wish I had that number in front of me, that the thing that Dana shows, that is, it's really, really good, because on average, what somebody should be able to sell 24 houses a year easily. And when you add that agent should be contributing another 24 units. So you should be able to double your business based on bringing in another agent. And one thing you might consider, that to get your feet wet, especially with a newer agent, is a showing assistant. And so the showing assistant really should partner with you. Like, if you're doing lead generation, they're doing lead generation. If you're going to an open house, they should be having their own open house. If you're prospecting, whatever you're doing, that person should be doing as well. And then they are also showing every house for you. So you train them, you explain to your client, this is how I'm going to make sure you get in every single house. Sally Sue has been trained by me. She knows what to look for. She's going to be the reason that we don't miss out on a house, however you want to spin it and sell it. But that agent is the one ripping and running and showing all those houses. And then they're making 10 to 15% of every single sale. I would say 10% of every single sale, not 15. Don't do that. But that also means even if they didn't show a house, you're paying them 10%, because they're doing the other activities with you. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Yep. And I've been debating on, like, Rebecca and I've been talking a lot about that regarding a buyer's agent or a showing assist. So, and probably I think for me, a showing assist might be the smartest move to do first before jumping into a buyer's agent.
And I mean, I would agree with that. I know Zova on our team just recently is utilizing somebody else on the team as a showing assistant, because she's gotten to the point where she's so busy that she can't physically get to everything. But that agent also knows that they're doing lead generation together. They're doing other things together outside of just that agent showing houses, because the idea too is that you're growing this agent into a very competent, talented agent, because they're seeing what you're doing and they're following your processes and your standards, and they're going to become a great agent. I mean, Heather that left my team is one of the best agents I know, and she's got a successful business. And she jokes and says, what, you taught me everything I know. But I always joke that she's a better agent than me, because she's so good at relationship building. And it's really a talent of hers. So I've grown a many, and they leave, and then they have great businesses. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Come back. It hurts when they leave. I'll tell you that right now. But you also have in place a very, very detailed agent agreement. Everything is in writing. and they know what to expect when they exit your team. And when they exit your team, they come in with their database. Okay. So for us, it's a minimum of 200 people. They have to come in onto the team with 200 people in their database. And that means as much information as possible. I mean, I've seen where they just gave me names. I'm like, that does not help me. No, you have, this is for them as much as it is for us. It is for them because they're getting phone numbers, email addresses, and home addresses. And that's how you're going to market to those people, obviously. Because if you can set them up on neighborhood watch or whatever they're called in command, market reports is what I call them, but those market reports, boom, there's a touch every month. If they don't have that information, then they're missing out on an opportunity to touch their sphere. But that 200, once they come onto the team, and let's say they meet somebody at the gym, we tag them in our system as, well, Nikki's on here, Nikki's OG SOI. So it's her original SOI. And as she adds people in to her database over the years, then they become Nikki's SOI, but they're not her OG. So what that means, and I'm not saying, because again, y'all, this is a relationship business, but if Nikki leaves the team, then Nikki takes her OG SOI. We don't touch that. We never market to those people. But if they were added to her database after, we could market to them after she leaves. Now, it doesn't mean they would do business with us because they know Nikki, and it doesn't mean squat, but it's how we differentiate about who we can market to and who we cannot. Does that make sense too? Stephanie, what did you write in here? Oops. Yes, yeah. And then hire another. That's exactly right. Because that's the idea, is that you're growing them into a buyer's agent. And really consider the fact that I think you can lose talented people or not get talented people because they are only a buyer's agent. So I used to do that model, and I think it's a mistake. And after some time, now initially they may not be very good at listings, and you should not let them just take listings and run. For us, it's, I'll partner with you on this, and this is, your split is 25% of that until we get through 3 or 4, and I feel like you're competent to handle it.
Well, and sorry, there might be dog noise in the background, but what, Andrew, to your question, when you're hiring a showing assistant, you're also showing them the opportunity model, which was my point with the buyer's agent. After 120 days, if you're killing the showing assistant and you want to move into a buyer agent, then this is how you do that. So you do a path to success that shows them the mile markers at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and 120 days, that they then earn the right to become a buyer's agent, so that then they know what opportunity is there for their income to increase.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, the showing assistant, do they have, can they still be at like half cap, or do they have to pay?
No, they're on your team. They're half cap.
Okay.
And please, guys, I mean, I'll just give you a word of advice. Do not hire part-time agents.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it, and it does not work. They can't. And this is the other thing is, telling people up front, do you have 90 days minimum saved? 6 months is ideal. But if they don't have 90 days of their expenses saved up, you're going to lose them because they can't afford it. Unless they get into action really fast. And that's the whole goal. Like our team goes through a 90-day launch program. At the end of launch, they should have 2 to 3 contracts, or at least 2 to 3 under contract. Oh my gosh, my husband just got here. So y'all are definitely going to hear a dog, because my dog is going to go nuts. So
Well, and Jenny, would you agree that if they don't quite have those reserves and they're really hungry and you see the fire in them, wouldn't you do a small salary and then some commission for the first 90 days for showing assistant? You wouldn't, because that's what
for showing assistant, yes. I'm sorry. I thought you were going to say.
I thought that's what we were talking about. Sorry, I'm
sorry. I
thought
I was like, oh no, I wouldn't. But that is an opportunity. Now, if you do that, then if they have a base salary, then that's great. But then your percentage backs off.
Right, like 7.5% for the first 90 days, and then you go straight commission at 10% or 12% or whatever that model looks like. I just think that would be a way if you see someone who's going to be super talented to get them into action and you're paying them, without, let's say, $1,000 for 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's totally fine. I thought you were saying as a buyer's agent. I'm like, no. But yeah, that's definitely a way to go. What else? Penny, Toby, y'all have any questions? Priscilla? I know you gotta have something. I mean, I just geek out on this kind of stuff. So I hope y'all found this helpful. I mean, if there's other stuff you want me to go back over on any of those benchmarks, I'm happy to go through that. If you want my pitiful presentation, because
Yes.
it literally is screenshots, guys, dropped into pages.
That's okay. I like to have those. And do you have kind of a rough draft of your contract with your?
Well, mine is actually, I don't think I'm allowed to share it. It is
Okay.
written by place attorneys.
Okay.
And it is very, 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 very detailed. Now, if, Nikki's over here, if she wanted to share it with you, I guess there wouldn't be anything holding her back.
So like I was trying to like log out of my daughter's account for Zoom so that it didn't say Katie. So I missed the first, like, what is Place? So is that like a?
Oh, well, I have partnered with Place, and they partner with the top 1% of teams and agents across the country.
Okay.
And they literally, through them, I have health insurance for my admin. I mean, true, like Anthem
Oh, wow.
insurance, dental. I have she has all kinds of insurance and things. And then agents on the team, once they sell 25 units a year, can actually get health insurance that the team helps subsidize, which is also through Anthem. And it is true health insurance, like a true PPO plan. I have an attorney, I have HR, I have all the things. I have the Brivity platform. It's a pretty extensive. I say when I came to KW, it changed my life because I really learned how to run a business. And there was a lot more opportunity afforded just because of how KW is set up and the opportunity for growth and things like that. And what I've learned since joining Place in December of 2022 has been mind-boggling. Absolutely. When I can share those stats with you that these are what the top 10 teams are doing, and you look at it and go, they're prospecting or sphere based, they have an operator in production that's selling at least 2 houses a month, and they pay 50% or less to the agents because that's the only way to be successful. I mean, it's an expensive endeavor to run a team the way that it should be run.
Well, that's basically, you have to be at a certain level to be able to participate with that, correct?
Yes, but I'm happy to share anything with you. I'm
Oh.
happy to help you out because, I believe in, when I first started a team, I was at a brokerage that didn't really, and teams weren't a big thing. They just weren't like a big thing. And now they're a big thing because we all want quality of life and we all want, something outside of real estate every day. And that's the benefit of a team. Even if, as agents on the team, they all help each other out. We all help each other. We've got the admin support. It's a great group for camaraderie. We have a lot of fun together. But it's just knowing that I can take a deep breath as the operator. And yeah, I mean, I'm not making, well, if I go back and look at it, I'm making as much money now as before Place, even though how this is set up. One thing I was going to tell you guys, what you should be doing also in order to benchmark when you can replace yourself, you should only be, so let's say if your agents are 50-50, then you're 50-50 with the business. So what goes into your business account is 50% of your commission, and what goes into your personal account is 50% of your commission. Because then you can truly see in the future what you need to do in order to replace yourself. Cause if, it's really hard to, like, for example, okay, for me, so I was dumping, all my commission is coming into, whether it's from the team, myself, wherever it is, it's all going into this checking account, right? Well, then all of my fees are coming out of that checking account. So I feel like I never really knew how much I was making until I got my profit and loss statements. But then I'd never considered paying myself literally just 50%. So that's all that hits that account now is 50% instead of the full 100%.
So when you get paid, so you do a closing, you get your commission check, let's say it's 10,000. So after your split and everything, it's 10,000. So you have an account set up for Jenny, and then you have one set up for the team. And you're splitting that half with the team, half with Jenny, right? Okay.
My commission in particular, yes,
Yeah. And then you pay expenses out of that team account.
that's right. Yeah. So yeah, and that's where it really helps you because then you get a little caught up and you're like, oh, I got $10,000. Well, no, you don't really have $10,000 because now you're going to pay all this money out. You don't really have $10,000 because you've got all your fees and all the things and all your expenses. So get used to paying yourself what seems more reasonable, 50%. And then, yeah, the other comes out because it really changed everything. I mean, doing that, my personal credit card went to a whole nother way low level than it was before because I was running everything through that that separate credit card. But when you really look at it and you put that money separate, 50% to me and 50% to the team of my own money, then you really have a much better understanding of what you're making.
Where do the taxes get paid out of, Jenny, or do they get paid out of each depending upon your income?
My taxes, so I use Payroll Solutions to pay myself and my husband. And then Payroll Solutions pays all of my taxes based on what I think I'm going to earn this year. So really, the money that actually hits them, my personal account, most of that's coming out of that 50% because I don't even want to, they run my payroll reports and then they pay all my taxes, my quarterlies, my everything. I know.
Right, but which bucket? I guess that's coming out of the business bucket to pay you personally.
And mine's a little bit complicated because of place. So I'm not
Right,
sure.
let's take that out, right? So if Stephanie Kellerman has a business account and a personal account, and I'm not transferring, I get paid, I'm a W-2 employee of the company. But the tax portion is going to come out of the business 50%, no?
Yes.
Okay. That's
And
what I was.
mine, yeah, and Payroll Solutions just does that for me. Like I never see.
Correct. Mine does too, but I just wanted to know if
Yeah.
I'm getting now 35% in my personal account or if I'm getting 50% because of the taxes have been taken out already.
Yeah, I think you could do the 50-50 and keep it coming out of the 50% expense account.
Okay, thanks.
What I do is say, like, I get a check, I go ahead and withhold like X amount of taxes, usually 35%, and I transfer that over into like a savings account. And then from what's remaining, I pay myself and leave the rest in business. So I guess it's kind of similar.
Yeah. And that's a good way to do it. Just whatever, it keeps it separate for you so that you just suddenly look up and go, oh my God, I got to pay taxes and I have no money.
Yeah. No, we don't want that.
Yeah. And
So what about, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry. What about you? What about your agents? So, their portion goes to the team, correct? So their split comes to the team. And then are you personally making money off of them, or it just goes to the team and then it ends there?
The way that mine is set up is all those expenses come out of that. And if there is net operating income left over, which there should be there, then I'm getting paid from that.
I'm guessing at
Got
closing.
it.
Oh, sorry, Andrew. At closing, they go ahead and pay your other agents, right? No.
Yeah, the office does.
Okay. Yes, then.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I was on the wrong track there for a second.
Yeah, but the $10,000 commission comes in, the check goes to the office, and then we have our DA set up or whatever we're doing now. DAs, I don't know. That's why I have people that do that because I don't know.
So it's split up before it even hits Jenny's account, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now what I will tell you is that you should track that because that is a cost of goods sold for you.
Okay,
So you should still be tracking gross commission income of $10,000.
mm-hmm,
And part of that next expense, that's your big chunk, is cost of goods sold, which is whatever your splits are with your team. So you're showing that money coming out. But from an accounting standpoint, you're tracking the full commission. And then you're taking out the 50% or the 65 or the 35%, whatever the number is, you're taking that out of there to show your true cost of goods sold.
okay. Is there
And
a good
that's-
way to get those DAs? Like, I mean, I know you can go back in and look at them after you've closed a couple days later. I don't know if there's a place that you can just go that has all of them.
No, I've asked for that. I'm like, I loved it when we used to have them emailed to us,
Right, yeah.
but they don't do that anymore. And that is something that I miss. I know Nancy said with the new system that we're going to, that there might be an opportunity to at least make a tag in there, something that you would know that it's available to you rather than having to go track it down. Because I agree with you. It's, having to check those and make sure there aren't any mistakes because there's definitely been some errors and things just because when you're training new people, they don't always get it 100% right.
Yeah, well,
All right. Any other questions? Anything else? Oh, so if you do want the, my lovely presentation, will you just text me at, 859-533-9427, your email address, and I'll send that over to you. I'll put my number in the chat really fast. It's going to be easier for me if you guys just text me because goodness knows I'll forget after we hang up. Okay. Well, if y'all think of other questions or you have things, I mean, I'm happy to meet. If I know Andrew and Rebecca, you guys wanted to kind of meet together and we can hop on a Zoom and just go through just good practices and things that you should do
Yeah.
to get going on it. Be happy to help.
I've got my, hopefully the person that may be joining me, she's going through school, so not the help that I needed as fast as I need it, but it's a start.
I need to send you, because he just
Yeah.
reached out to me today. His name is Daniel. And when we hang up, I will send you his contact information because he definitely wants to talk to you. And he's
Okay.
licensed and ready to go. He's already practicing.
Yes, I need that because I'm drowning.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you all. Hope it was helpful.
Thank
Reach out
you.
anytime.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. Bye.